Hi, I'm Arnita Gadson. I'm the Executive Director of the West Jefferson County Community Task Force, and I'm also the State Chair for the NAACP Environmental Justice Projects. Today, I would like to talk a little bit to you about how to get things done when you're trying to develop issues and get community involved or the group that is interested in getting things done. So we're going to start with just a few things like we always talk about: the where, the when, the why, the how, and the what. And let's start with the what, and that can be very deceiving. First of all, if the what is, and I'm going to use a project that we did in Louisville to describe all of these things. Uh, the what was that people were felt that they were being exposed to emissions at higher rates in one particular area than another, and that's basically what environmental justice is that you are exposed more unequally, and you have the results is much worse to these exposures than other people in the same vicinity somewhere a little further. So that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. People felt that they were exposed more than others. Now, once you decide on that what, you have to back it up with something. So, first of all, in trying to get people together, you have to understand there are some people that they know what the what is, but they really don't understand what the what is. And in this case, if we're talking about being exposed to emissions, this is talking about technical language, this is talking about technical research, this is talking about getting people involved that have the technology. So once you get the people involved to either back you up, to either validate or invalidate what you're saying, now you have established the what. In this case, the health department was involved, and of course, their statistics proved that people living in this area had higher rates of death from cancer, higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of high blood pressure, and upper respiratory diseases and asthma. So now we have a foundation that says something is going on here. Then you want to know the when. When did this happen to me? How did this happen to me? The when comes about when you start actually looking at the exposures in itself. Now we've done the what, yeah, we've done that, and also we know now that what the chemicals are, and how you do that is open records, and I'm sure someone else will describe that. But once you find out what the chemicals are, then you find out how they affect you, because all chemicals that you smell are not necessarily dangerous. Many you don't smell or you don't see are very dangerous. So we have to establish that fact. And the people that are exposed, we have to constantly make sure that they understand, and that they understand in a way that it becomes a personal thing to them. Because if it's not personal, they're not going to support it, or they're going to support it in negative ways that may hamper your way to your goal, and that's to improve things. So now we've talked about the what, and we basically talked about the how, because we know that these facilities, you have to find out what facilities that you're talking about. And once you find those facilities and you get your information together, now you know how the people have been affected. Now, what you don't know, or what you may not realize, is that this has gone on for many, many years. So, can you find a cause? That's an issue that you have to go through. And the cause is, number one, are the companies doing what they are supposed to do? If they're not, which is in this case, they were not doing what they were supposed to do, now you've got the why. So once you get that, when you get to the point of the why, you find out that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But before we got to that point, we had to figure out how we were going to get there. And the basic thing was to monitor, to leverage it out from the community saying, this is what you're doing to me, to the company saying, no, we're not, because we are doing what we're supposed to do. And the one thing I always do, it may not work well with others, I always try to remember everybody in the room is human. Everybody's doing their job, whether it's blaming you, whether it's telling me not to blame you. And you have to make sure that you stick with your issues. If not, you will end up with a lot of people being angry and not getting anything done. Now, that doesn't mean that some anger is not what got you there in the first place. So sometimes there has to be a little anger, or a little disgust before you can even begin to reach your goal. Now, and I've already said it, and that's the where. Where is this coming from? How am I getting this? And I'm going to, intermingle all of them, because all of them come together when you're trying to get this. Now you've got the companies, you say, okay, these companies, we feel that it's these companies. In our case, it was the Rubber Town Industries, and it also was, we had some exposure from utility companies. We had exposure from the sewer district. So you have to look at all of these things in the area in which we live. Now, the other thing that once you find out, well, you have to figure out how to find out. We monitored, and once the monitoring was done, it verified what we had. Once you get your information, now it's like, okay, what do we do with this information? Because you see, no one expected this information to be what it was. I didn't even expect it. I guess I believe, some of the people in the company that said, well, we're not doing anything. And in many cases, I doubt if many that actually worked in the company actually knew they were doing something that was really hurting people. They were doing their job. So once you find that out, and then it's, what can we go? Now, this is the important point. You need to get somebody early in the game that wants to help you, that has authority in some kind of way. Whether it is a politician, whether it is an attorney, whether it's in a health, a medical profession, you have to get someone who has that technology, the engineering, in chemistry. You have to get that person that has that certified knowledge who can back you up or can be a part of your organization, that can help you go along, help you with your legal, try to, and how do we go about this? Now that's how we did that. Once, and then now who was the person in authority that we had working with us? Well, we had Tom Fitzgerald working with us, but then the other thing is that we got Senator Gerald Neal involved. And once we got the senator involved, now we have our way to the rules, the regulations, the support that we needed. Then also, once you get your politicians, then we got, council people to get involved. But what was the most important for us? The mayor. The mayor was involved, and he was involved from day one. Once we showed him the report, he said, no, we can't continue this. We have to do something about it. And so when we were asked, what were we going to do about it? And at the time it was me and the director of Air Pollution Control District at the time sitting there. And he said, what are we going to do about it? Of course, I just said change regulations. Of course, I'm always good at making remarks like that. But changing regulations, that was a big thing. And Art was not necessarily real happy about me blurting that out. But in the end, that's what we did. We had to change the regulations because the regulations that we had were not helping the companies, and I'll put it that way, helping the companies maintain the standards by which they are regulated. So now that we had that, and of course, then you'd have the blowback from the companies who says, this is going to hurt us because yes, it will be costly. Yes, they're going to have to add some things to their system and to their process that helps clean up the air a little bit. And yes, it was a back and forth there, back and forth thing. But we finally, the whole thing about it is that we finally got it done. The regulations are changed. The project became a project that was, well known throughout the United States. Now, that's where we got to. I just explained that in what, 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes. That took us years to get to that point. And it took a lot of people involved to get to that point. When you first feel like there's something that needs to be introduced to the community, or the community is coming to you, there are a couple of things you have to remember. A lot of people, they have problems, but they don't want to necessarily lead the process. And as a person that they're coming to, you have to recognize that. You also have to recognize the character of the area by which these people are coming from. If you are not aware of the area, you're not understanding the culture, then you have to learn a lot, or you have to put somebody right by your side who can help you, or you have to let them lead. The other thing is that most people want to be paid for their damage. I mean, all of us do. We get hurt, we think we need to be paid. There are many things that people will say, well, you just need to buy me out. That is the biggest thing, just buy me out. And the one thing, as a leader of it, you have to be cognizant of this. You have to understand it. And then you have to understand that maybe there are few people that want to be bought out, but there are other people, they just want to live comfortably and healthily in their neighborhood. And we found that out in one of the neighborhoods, because I had talked to the companies and had kind of made an agreement that perhaps they could move the homes, physically move them by another area and physically move the homes, because some people said they didn't want to lose their homes. So I thought, okay, well, let's just move the homes. And we talked about it. But then when I was so happy, I thought I had made this great deal. But when I talked to many people in the community, they were just sitting there looking at me. They said, we don't want to go anywhere. We like where we are. We don't want to move. So what did I find out? It was only those 3 people that I was talking to that wanted to move. The rest of them did not want to move. So those are things that you have to stay cognizant of. You have to recognize that. And then there are people that are concerned. They'll say, I'm not concerned about me. I'm concerned about my children. So you have to make sure that you are working very hard to address the major concerns that they have. Now, let's talk about the negative side. You will run across people that their reason for being there is to make a name for themselves. That is a time to elevate themselves. And that isn't anything. Come on now, let's look at politics. Let's not discuss politics. But at least, that is an example. There are times when people just want to elevate themselves. And that's okay too. But you have to establish some ground rules within yourself as to how far you will allow someone to stop what you're doing. And let's hope not stop, but take someone else to take credit for what you're doing. And that's okay too, if the goal is still the goal. And once you establish that goal, that's your target. That's where you have to go. That's where you have to go. The other thing is too, you have to understand that there are some people, even those people in authority, who will try to stop you. And then you have to decide how you're going to get around that. So I've gone over the where, the when, the how, and all of that together, and I've kind of given you some things that you will have to deal with, that you will face. But the one thing is that you have to recognize within yourself where your weaknesses are. My weakness was to try to solve everybody's problems. And you can't do that, because people will see that if you really want to help, they'll come to you with everything. Not necessarily environmental things. How can I get my unemployment? How do I need to do this? I need to get, they're not sending me my check. And I'm trying to find out what people need, and I'm trying to find out where they need to go. And, I'm becoming everything to everybody. And then I had to stop. And thank God I had a board that I did listen to that said, you are spreading yourself too thin. We have to stay focused on the environmental issues. And that's it. And those things that are involved in environmental issues. So that was a real thing with me. That may not be with you. That may not be with you. Then again, there may be people, and I will use an example. I did a workshop for EPA in Georgia. And in that workshop, I was charged with going through step by step, having representatives from EPA. I had a politician, I had an engineer, I had an industry person there on the panel, and they talked about their roles and what they played. Then when we talked about, we got an easel, and then we were going to put step by step, what is it that you've gotten from this? Where do we need to go with this? All of that, just basically what I'm saying now with a few little, but the one thing that I didn't hit was there was a lady there that said, we have somebody is coming into our neighborhood trying to tell us what to do, and they're not from the neighborhood, and we just really don't want them to do that. I didn't know that the lady they were talking about was on the other side of the room. And she let her finish talking. We talked a little bit about something else, and then she said, well, what if you know how to help people and you really do want to help, and when they just don't want your help and you don't understand why? So I'm thinking, I think I just have, two people answering each other here. And so my answer to the first lady was, how long have you been working on this project? I'm not going to even ask you what. How long have you been working on this project? 5 years. And how long, are you close to getting it done? Well, I mean, this issue's been around for 20 years, but we've just been working on it 5 years, and we're still not any close to getting done. So let's point it to me. I would like to think that I could have gotten something done in 20 years or 25 years. If I haven't gotten where I want to go, why would I not want help from someone who wants to help me? Not take over, but wants to help me. That seems to be a very logical thing. And if I see something that needs to be done, yet I'm not necessarily from that particular area, and I think I can help, why would I not want to help? So you see what I'm saying? This is what happens. We get in our cocoon, and we want to make sure that we stay in our cocoon. But if the butterfly never comes out the way we want it, then we have to look at it from a different perspective. And I could go on and on and on about all the problems that you could run into, because I'm sure there's some that I have not run into. The one thing, when I was in San Francisco, I was doing a presentation to the EPA there, and the one thing I emphasized to some of the folks that were having problems there was you're coming to EPA and you're marching around. And so when I was marching, I think I was walking with them about 5 minutes before somebody said, who are you? And I told them that I was from Kentucky and I was there to speak with EPA. And of course they were doing, they talked about what EPA wasn't doing. So I asked them, did they know from whom EPA gets their direction? I don't mean to say that there are people here who cannot make a difference, because I'm sure that the right person speaking to the right person would at least begin to get things rolling. Maybe. But have you done this at your congressman's house, or in Washington, or your representative, or even your local representative? Because people here go to work just like you do. They go at 8 o'clock, they get off at 5, they do their job. So I'm not saying this is not the place that you shouldn't be, But I'm just saying there are people that have a little bit more power that actually tell these folks what their job is and hold them accountable to the job description. So you want to make sure that you're dealing with the writer of the job description and to help them help you. So it was a one gentleman there, and he actually told me, he said, I really didn't think about it that way. I really didn't think that I needed to go anywhere but right here. And I told him, I said, it would be wonderful. I'd love to have an EPA office in Louisville. However, we don't have a regional EPA office in Louisville, because yes, I would be there, but I would be reaching much further than them. I would try to be just moving the ball up the scale until I finally could get to where I want to go. So these are things that are really, really important. I think that you have to realize that what you see is not always what is. What you hear is not actually what people are saying. Many people are talking about their health because of this issue, but there are probably underlying reasons that they don't even know. They're not even aware of. And in this society, the way it is now, when we look at economic growth and wealth for people who've never had it, who started behind in the first place, it's very difficult sometimes for people to understand really how to get where they want to go. They know where they want to go. And it's our job as organizers, and that's what I'd like to say rather than leaders, or maybe another good word is facilitator, to help people reach those goals and to guide them through. Because there's nothing greater than people feeling successful at helping themselves. And that's the part I like to do. I feel good when I feel that other people, when they say, we did this and we did that. That is very important to me, more so than, well, Arnita, you helped us. Thank you very much. And I'm glad that I helped. But the end result is that we accomplished something.